bill be now agreed to in principle. I call the member for Balmain.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I rise to speak on this bill on behalf of the Greens, the Marine Pollution Bill 2011. I note that we have some students in the gallery, and it's important that they're here at this time because this actually is a very important piece of legislation which we Greens support, which helps to reduce marine pollution. Now, we think there might need to be some amendments, but the thrust of the bill is support.
You have to throw
that in. Madam Temporary Speaker, the bill implements obligations under the International Convention for the Prevention of Pollution from Ships. In my electorate, the electorate of Balmain, recreational vessels are very obvious to people that travel around Sydney because of vessels in Blackwattle Bay, around Glebe Island, in White Bay, and around the coastline of my electorate. And this legislation will improve the situation when it comes to the dumping, which we see, unfortunately, too much from vessels, which pollutes our marine environment. The Commonwealth legislation applies in New South Wales until such time as the states implement their own legislation. And New South Wales already does have legislation, the Marine Pollution Act of 1987, to implement some of the MARPOL, which is the International Convention for the Prevention of Pollution from Ships. This replaces and updates that Act to implement more recent annexes from MARPOL, plus some other important updates. As we've heard, the purpose of the bill is to replace the Marine Pollution Act 1987 to incorporate recent amendments that have come into effect since 1987. The bill carries forward the provisions of that 1987 Act and also incorporates amendments by the International Maritime Organisation to MARPOL annexes regarding oil and noxious liquid substances. It incorporates MARPOL annexes which relate to harmful substances in package form, sewage and garbage, and other miscellaneous provisions in relation to limiting the operation of the Act to 3 nautical miles, the service of summonses, pollution arising from transfer operations, the provision of notices under the Act reporting any malfunction in sewerage treatment systems, increasing the maximum penalty that a local court can impose, detention of ships, verbal directions to prevent the discharge of pollutions from vessels, authority to enter premises to undertake preventative or clean-up action and obstruction offences. And importantly, the bill also introduces the ability to prescribe no discharge zones for treated sewerage. These things, Madam Temporary Speaker, are well supported. They're over time, and as we heard from the previous speaker, the member for Coogee, the 1987 Act required updating, and we welcome the fact that the government is bringing this forward. There are a few measures, however, Madam Temporary Speaker, which it's worth the government considering. In particular, the issue around the enabling of civil proceedings for offences in addition to criminal, and to allow open standing in terms of bringing prosecutions. Now, open standing provisions, many of you will know, are similar to those that exist in Section 252 of the Protection of the Environment Operations Act and Section 123 of the Environmental Planning and Assessment Act. It's our view that enabling open standing to bring prosecutions would be valuable in this case, and to enable civil proceedings in addition to criminal proceedings would be useful. It's also important that we acknowledge one of the key areas of marine pollution is the loss of fishing gear. And I don't just mean the kind of fishing tackle you see in a lot of wharves from individual fishers that are doing some recreational fishing, but also from larger scale fishing tackle. Now, accidental loss of fishing gear is exempt from the garbage offences if, quote, all reasonable precautions were taken to prevent the loss. Now, this is consistent with MARPOL, and it's up to the court to decide what constitutes reasonable steps. However, loss of fishing gear, as many of us know, is a major source of marine debris that is harmful to wildlife. And if any of you have seen fishing nets and other fishing gear loose in the sea, you'll know that it continues to entrap marine life with very significant consequences. So it's our view that the loss of fishing gear being a major debris that is harmful to wildlife, that ensuring that this loss is addressed in the legislation would be a step forward. So it's our view that there should be an increase on onus on fishing vessels to minimise this source of pollution. While nets have to be registered, there is no requirement in this Act or in the fisheries legislation to report lost nets. We are suggesting, and in the other place we're proposing, an amendment that attempts are made to retrieve the nets and for the loss to be reported. It's in line with the National Threat Abatement Plan for Marine Debris, and we feel that it's a positive amendment that could be considered by the government. So, Madam Temporary Speaker, the legislation is a step forward. It's positive. It does update the 1987 Act, but there's 3 points that we think need addressing: enabling open standing to bring prosecutions, to enable civil proceedings as well as criminal proceedings, and to require commercial fishing vessels to retrieve lost fishing gear and to report this loss. Thank you.
Madam Acting Speaker.
The question is that this bill be now agreed to in principle. I call the member for